Hello. This week I want to talk a little bit about how to get our children to live together in peace and somewhat harmony. That seems to be one of the biggest flashpoints for bonus families, is how children who are not otherwise related to each other can learn to get along. It can be complicated, and there's no real template because the families that we form come in all sorts of varieties. There are what the research calls simple step families, which was what I had. I had no biological children, and it was simply my husband who was the biological parent and me as the step parent. Complex families is what you get whenever both parents have biological children, sort of like the Brady Bunch. And so both of them are both biological parents and step parents at the same time. And then you have the other permutation where you have the step kids, and then the two parents have children together. And so that would be for those children, they're living in their intact biological family. The dynamics can be very convoluted and very complicated, and there is no single one way to make it work. But I wanted to give you 4 different principles and ideas to think about. The first one is to concentrate on your marriage. Even though the kids can be sucking up all of your attention and all of your oxygen, you need to make sure that the foundation for the family, which is your marriage, is the one that is secure. I know that our kids need a lot from us, but the one thing they need more than anything else is to see how to keep a marriage together through good times and bad times and through a lot of stress. So make sure that you're not neglecting your kids, and of course safety is always a top concern. But in the vast majority of marriages, we don't have to worry about safety, and we can concentrate on making the marriage our first priority and explaining to our kids, I love you, but your place in this family, if we do our job right, is temporary because you will one day be an adult on your own, and we want a marriage to last longer than your place or your time with this family. The second thing that I would say is to keep communications open. It's very easy for us to get wound up in everything that we have to do and the immediate and urgent things. I'm particularly bad at this. My husband and I both tend to always have a project going, and if we have any downtime, we fill it by starting a new project. So it's not easy for us to remember to stop and affirmatively take the time and check on our family members, and then take the time to listen to them and see what they tell us. The third principle I would say is don't force your children to have any particular relationship with their step-siblings. We need to treat them all one and the same, but they're not necessarily going to think of it that way, particularly if, for example, you have custody of your kids, but your spouse only has visitation rights. It's going to be very easy for those two sets of kids to think of each other as a separate family because they just don't spend enough time together. So don't force the relationship. Now you need to set boundaries. You need to insist on civility and respect for everybody in the family, and you need to model that. But let them develop whatever relationship they want within those boundaries of civility and respect. The final principle, I would say, is try to encourage shared experiences for the kids in your family. If you think about it, most of us have our friends from projects that we have worked together on, whether ball teams or nonprofit groups or even work projects. There's something about working together towards a common goal that builds those bonds of friendships among people. Well, our children and our family is no different. If your kids can get along well enough to go on a camping trip, for example, If they have to learn how to cooperate to get their tent put up, that's the sort of project that builds skills. It builds life skills and how to get along with people, and it builds bonds between them of those shared experiences. So we may not ever be able to get our kids to think of each other as true siblings, but we can certainly give them a foundation and give them the tools to build whatever kind of relationships they are open to having.